Welcome to Living on the B-Side, where music and stories come together to inspire and transform. I'm your host Birgit, and in every episode we explore the universal language of music, how it shapes our lives, connects us, and tells the stories that define us. Through heartfelt conversations and powerful melodies, we uncover the magic that makes music so much more than just sound. Welcome, B-Siders. Welcome to a brand new episode, and I'm very intrigued today to talk about an artist that I have to admit I've not really heard of before. I'm meeting guest Ericka today, so I'm really excited to share excuse me, her with you all, and hopefully we all move or walk away from this episode really inspired about her and yes. Oh, excuse me, I got a tickle in my throat today. But we can learn from her journey and her music. But firstly, I want to say a warm welcome to Ericka. Hello, and thank you for being here today. I'm really excited.
Well, thank you, Birgit. And I hope I'm getting your name right, Birgit, right?
Yes.
Actually, I'm not surprised that you haven't heard of Violeta Parra. Many people haven't, and I think for a long time now, my mission has been to try to change that. So I'm really so honored and happy to be on your show because I feel like that's a step in that direction. So I guess I'll start a little with myself and then talk
Yes.
about Violeta Parra. Would that make
Please,
so
that would make
my
a lot of sense. Yes.
okay? So and then we can try to put the two together. But my name is Ericka Verba. I'm actually zooming with you from Santa Monica, California, where I live, and I'm director of Latin American Studies at Cal State University, Los Angeles, which is my dream job. So shout out to all my people. And the so my kind of academic background, I would say, is I would say I have a PhD in Latin American history. That's my academic background, and but I'm also a musician, and I've been playing the kind of music that Violeta Parra wrote and sang for now. I guess I can safely say 50 years because I learned it as a teenager. So, and I'll let me just tell you and your listeners, a little bit more about Violeta Parra, so you can see
Please,
why I
yes.
would spend a long time writing her biography, which I really feel is my life's project. So I'm so excited to share it with you. Violeta Parra was born in 1917 in the south of Chile a little town called San Carlos, and she was the second. Sorry, she was the fourth. Oh, I'm nervous, so I'm getting it wrong, but
It's
she
okay.
was one of
Take your
10
time.
children. How about that? It's like this usually doesn't
10.
happen.
Wow.
One of 10 children, and all very talented, all musicians. And she so I think that the kind of guiding question of my biography is, how does a woman from the south of Chile, from her father was a school teacher, her mother was born into a peasant family, farm working family, and became a seamstress, in the city. How does a child of those circumstances end up becoming this amazing songwriter and musician who has written songs that are sung by her most famous song, Gracias a la Vida, which gives the title to my book, Thanks to Life, has been
Mm-hmm.
recorded by Joan Baez, Mercedes Sosa. Those are kind of folk singers from here, the United States, and from Argentina. But it's also been recorded by Casey Musgrave, who's a country western star. Yo-Yo Ma, during the COVID, he put out an album of music to soothe people, and he did a instrumental version of the song Gracias a la
Mm-hmm.
Vida, Thanks to Life. So it's really been recorded. If you go on Spotify, it's been recorded by hundreds of
Mm-hmm.
artists. And so
Okay.
she's a songwriter, but she's one of those creative geniuses. So she's also a visual artist. And
Okay.
in her late, I want to say her mid 40s, she starts embroidering these tapestries on burlap and yarn because she has hepatitis and she's bored. She can't get out of bed, and they end up being shown. She becomes the first Latin American to have a solo show in the Museum
Mm-hmm.
of Decorative Arts in Paris, which is actually housed in the Louvre. So everyone always just says, "Oh, she was in the Louvre," because she was in the Louvre Palace. So
Mm-hmm.
how does a woman of humble origins end up just with this kind of being this creative
Mm-hmm.
uh, force that creates all
Mm.
of these wonderful
Wow.
art. And so that's, that's what the biography is about, because it is
Mm-hmm.
really quite a journey, and we can talk about it a lot.
Yeah, of course we can.
Yeah. And I
So,
guess go ahead.
so I guess my question then is, I can tell the passion in your voice when you talk about her, and obviously the impact she made in your life. Um, and now obviously knowing you are in this whole Latin American world, you studied it, you're teaching it, you're living it almost. From what I hear, you're really sort of involved in it. When was the first time you stumbled across Violeta? Just so we can
Oh,
get a bit
that's
of an idea how this passion started.
well, I love that question. So thank you for that. So I'm living in Santa Monica, but my family settled in Brookline, Massachusetts, which is a suburb of Boston.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing that exciting about it. And in high school, a family of Chilean refugees came to Brookline, and they were a very creative family. The mother studied theater. I went to see her do a my first Brecht play, the mother, and she was the mother of the Brecht play. And that was just so exciting. And the father was studying sort of radical pedagogy. I don't know if you've ever heard of Paulo Freire, but just sort of how sort of answering. Anyway, he was a radical education man, and the children who were my age were all artists and musicians, and just very on fire, and also very angry because the reason they were uprooted from their homeland, Chile, was because there was a military coup. It's September 11th, 1973, and they had to basically leave their country. And their mother was Swedish. She had Swedish double citizenship, so she helped people that were being hunted down by the military hide in the embassy. But the other thing this family did, which was very, I think, important, was they
Mm-hmm.
took all, there was this in Chile, as in the United States, and really in Europe, and really all around the world. In the 1960s, people were writing protest songs. I'm thinking Bob
Mm-hmm.
Dylan here in the United States.
Yeah.
Um, and in Chile, there was Victor Jara. And so there was all this wonderful music that was political music. And when a military dictatorship comes in, that becomes dangerous. That's dangerous music. That's
Mm-hmm.
there are
Yeah.
scenes in Chile which replicate the Nazis. There are scenes where books and records are being burned in bonfires on the street by the
Mm.
military.
Mm-hmm.
And so this family went out and bought a bunch of military music albums. I hope your listeners know what an album is. It's a no,
Well, we're
it's this thing
talking
that
about the
turns and
B
you.
side, so by now
Okay,
people
fair
should,
enough. Yeah,
like,
I
really
don't
should
have
know.
to. I feel like I need to sort of preface this. I want your listeners to know, or viewers to know, this is my first podcast. You already know this, but I want them to know in
Yes.
case I seem a little nervous, and I really am glad it is you. So, because
Okay.
I wrote a biography. I'm not like a public figure, so this is all new
It
to me.
takes getting used to, that's for
Oh my
sure.
goodness, it does. So thank
Mm-hmm.
you for your patience. Anyway, so they went out and they bought band music, military band music,
Mm-hmm.
and they put their albums of protest music inside these uh, record sleeves, and then they very carefully ironed all of the records shut, so it looked like they
Genius.
had never been opened. And that's how,
Genius.
yeah, no, it was. And they got the records out of the country. And while I was in high school with them, there were a couple of very famous Chilean bands who happened to be on tour when the military coup happened, which meant two things. One, that they were alive, which was wonderful. They weren't
Mm-hmm.
being, they weren't in prison, they weren't
Yeah.
jailed, they weren't killed. And the other thing was that they didn't get to go home for decades. I mean, for years. It's in some cases almost 2 decades. So they were the Chilean voice in exile. That's literally how they would be described. And
Mm-hmm.
one of them was called Inti Imani. And when
Mm-hmm.
Inti Imani came to Boston the first time, I'm sure it wasn't true for all the other trips, but the very first time they came to Boston, they were, I think, if my memory serves me correctly, I think they were actually sleeping on the floor of these friends' apartment living room because it was so fast and so
Mm-hmm.
sudden, and people needed to hear them, and there was no time to get more organized than that, So people needed to
Mm-hmm.
hear their voices. So I got to hear some of these musicians that were in exile. I got to see them, hanging around the living room of my friends. And I learned I learned my first Violeta Parra songs from these friends, and I was 14. So this, I can
Wow.
very safely say that that was 50 years ago. So
Wow.
um, it's been a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Both of the two of the friends from the family I'm still in touch with, and one is became a composer, a film. His name is Miguel Picker. You can I guess Google him, but he's a composer, and the other's a fantastic artist, Sebastian Picker. They're both
Mm-hmm.
remarkable. And I'll share a story because I think it's very beautiful. For at least 40 years, I've been telling people that Miguel Picker taught me how to play guitar, and that's why I play this music, and that's why I write this book and all of this. And I
Mm-hmm.
ran into a mutual friend of ours maybe about 10 years ago, and she said, "Oh, Miguel loves you. He says you taught him how to play guitar." And so he's been saying all this time that I taught him how to play guitar. And
Oh
I've been saying for
gosh.
all these years that he taught me how to play guitar.
So what's
And we've
true?
well, I the way I see it now is I see it that probably two very stubborn teenagers got together and taught each other how to play guitar.
Oh, that's a nice way of saying it, though. It just
Yeah,
shows you
but
how you appreciate each other. So,
yeah,
mm.
he still insists he's right. He'll never finish a visit with me without saying you taught me. But anyway,
So
I love
that's how you met Violeta.
it
That's
really
an
was. It
incredible
was.
story. Yeah.
Yeah. So we
So
have, and oh, sorry.
it's okay.
Oh,
Go
I was
on.
just going to say, once you know Violetta, once you come in touch with her music and her poetry,
Yeah.
she has become sort of the soundtrack of my life because I'm one of those people, and I
Ah.
think you might be that way too, where if you're feeling a certain thing, a song will come into your head, and it sort
Mm-hmm.
of gives you it gives you the message of what you're feeling. I call
Yep.
it a text from the heart, but I've been getting them way before I had a cell phone. So it's just like I'll be singing a song and I'll go, "Oh my God, that's what I'm feeling," right?
Yeah.
It can be a song that I would never sing, like a pop song that, was not on my top 10, and suddenly I'm singing and it's like, oh. So
Yeah.
Violeta Parra's, yeah. So she's definitely part of the soundtrack of my life. She really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I call those the downloads because sometimes
oh,
I haven't heard this song. It can be in years, and all of a sudden I'm going grocery shopping and it comes on in the aisle and I stop in my tracks. And I usually don't do that. And I'm like, what
yeah.
does that mean? Why is this song playing? And then I walk away and I've got to digest it, and all of a sudden I get like this message through it.
The
So obviously
download.
you're the same. So it's a download
Yeah.
for
It's
me.
it's I think what we would have in common here, and I'm sure many of your listeners, just because of what your show is about, it's kind of like it's the words have a meaning and the
Hmm.
song has a meaning. And they're just so much part of us at this point.
Hmm.
Like we're very we took the song seriously from the beginning, right? We made it our I don't know how to explain it, but yeah, exactly the
Yeah,
way you described it.
yeah.
Um,
It's and sometimes it's the lyrics, sometimes it's actually the music.
yeah, yeah.
So it really depends on yeah, what and that's probably a little bit hard for people to understand who haven't experienced that yet. But you know exactly what you need to hear, like if it's the lyrics or the music, for you to get the message of what you need to pay attention to, or whatever it is. So it's a bit of a skill, I guess, because we've obviously developed it over time, in a way, but it's
Well,
it's not impossible for anyone to open their ears and hearts to get into that zone where you can really pay attention to what, I don't know if you want to call it, the universe, God, whatever it is, lets you know what you need to know.
but see, I would say for me, it's not so much a skill as a gift because I never know what's going to happen. Like
Mm,
that's the whole point. I always learn something. It feels like a dream. Like you learn
okay.
something from it, but you didn't plan it,
Mm,
right? It's like there's no
mm-hmm.
it's like telling it's subconscious somehow. It's somehow your
Yes.
subconscious coming to the surface. And
Mm.
maybe it's just that maybe everybody gets it, but they're not paying attention. So maybe this will get people, oh, that happened to me now. Maybe they'll notice. Who knows?
Yes.
Yeah, who knows?
Yeah, no, that's true. And especially if the song repeats itself constantly.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
And
no, no,
it's
of
and
course.
it's not on your playlist. It just happens to, you know,
Yeah.
come out of nowhere constantly. Then it might be time to pay attention.
Right, like a mantra. I did want to
Yes.
say something about the Violetta's poetry,
Yeah,
because one
please.
of the things I love about this book, and that was also sort of part of this book has feels to me like this amazing collective project. And
Hmm.
I love that because I don't like doing things by myself.
Yeah.
And when I play music, I hate singing alone. I love playing with other people. And probably in a weird way, writing this biography was um, also maybe the most solitary thing I've ever done too. So it was both
Hmm.
collective and solitary because ultimately I'm the one who put the words on the page to begin with, right?
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
the but at the same time, the support I got in trying to understand Violeta Parra and in terms of, sources. And then I have a dear friend named Nancy Morris who read, I don't know how many versions of the book, and she'd send me words we were looking for. I was in yoga class and I found the right word, and she'd send it to me, text it. But what I wanted to say is Nancy Morris, along with Patricia Vilches, Nancy's from here, from the United States, and Patricia Vilches is Chilean, and they together, out of love for Violeta Parra's poetry,
Hmm.
gave me this incredible gift of translating the lyrics and the poetry that I use in this book, my book
Hmm.
of her, about her. Um, Gracias a la vida, thanks to life. They translated all the lyrics for me, and they did it so that it would have a meter, so that you would feel the rhythm of the poetry or the song. So it
Beautiful.
doesn't rhyme exactly, but it captures the spirit of the song. And
Mm.
again, because I want people to get to know Violeta Parra, and sometimes language is an obstacle, I
Yeah.
think we solved the problem beautifully in this book because
Hmm.
of their conversations. They're as passionate as I am. We're all equally passionate about this.
Hmm.
So they just, out of sheer joy, they just translated these incredible lyrics, and I think they did a fantastic job. And I tried purposefully. I stayed out of the conversation because I thought this is too wonderful. I'm going to let these two artists, do this
Do their
translation for me.
thing.
And oh my God, yes. I think I changed one word. They had one translation where they had translated charcos to puddles, and puddles just doesn't sound right. It wasn't as
Mm.
poetic as we needed for the
Yeah.
purpose. I think
Wonderful.
we put wetlands. That's what we did. Wetlands.
So it brings me to a bit of a question when you were just talking about all these people involved to get this book happening, to get this book out into the world. Obviously, there's a passion for Violetta, a huge passion by so many
Yeah,
people.
yeah.
Why do you think she resonates so deeply, not just within her own country, but across the globe, as it seems? What do you think? Why do you think that is?
But that is another really fantastic question. And just as an aside, there are many of us, and there's even a word in Spanish for us, where as a translation would be, we're Violetta maniacs. So Violetta maniacs.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're just uh, uh there's a bunch we're all over the world, like you said. It's
Hmm.
so I'll talk more about that if you want, but I would say in terms of I love this question. Um I think I would start again with what she produced with so I would start with
Hmm.
her songs themselves. So
Hmm.
there's this incredible poetry, and the songs are not like what you just described, where they repeat one line over and over again. They're often like stories, elaborate stories,
Hmm.
and they're always in first person. So she'll be talking about the miners and their hard life, and what I love also. So she's talking about the miners in the north of Chile, and the one line that does repeat is "Y arriba quemando el sol," and that means and up above is the sun is beating down, and you can feel it's like this sparse song, and you can actually feel, these are mining towns in the desert,
Hmm.
it's an Atacama desert. It's the driest desert in the world, right? So these are miners who are living in mining camps, mining a hard life. And what I love about Violeta too, and I think other people do, and that's also why she resonates, is she brings women in, right? So she's also a symbol of a strong woman who
Hmm.
sees women and talks about women. So it's not just about the miners. She also has a verse about the miners' wives who are waiting to get water from the only pump in town, right? And they're in line for it. And of course, they're
Hmm.
going to carry the water back to their houses in buckets, right? That's how you get water in this town. But the last verse says, and I'm going to go back to Santiago and tell everybody about this. So there's not one song. They can be, the songs are about other things, but she's always in the song. And so you feel this kind of eyewitness
Hmm.
of society. right, which is protest music, I would say. Um, but also she has the most profound and beautiful songs about love and philosophy. Gracias a la vida, thanks to life, is a song that offers thanks to everything on the planet, and it's absolutely beautiful. And I can't believe this, but I have to plug in my computer. That's the one thing I forgot. Can you, how should we do this?
Just do it
Uh,
and I'll cut it. That's
okay,
fine.
okay, thank you. And we'll come back to that thing. I'll come back
Yeah.
right. So sorry. You write down where this is so it's not so hard for you to find it. I'm so sorry. Please write down the time so you can find it. I feel like I'm going to give you more burnout. What a okay. I'm going to go back to
Yes.
the philosophical song, the other kinds of songs. Would that be a good place to go back to?
Yes. Yep. Yep.
Okay. So she doesn't just write these political songs. She also writes these songs about love, about philosophy, sort of philosophy of life, deep philosophical songs. And in fact, the song "Thanks to Life" that this book is named after, "Gracias a la Vida," it's a song that thanks life for everything from the stars to for her senses, for her ears who can grasp all things, and from her eyes that see, everything from the mountains to the oceans and then into your beautiful eyes,
Mm-hmm.
and also her feet that are tired but that have taken her to cities and towns and all over the world. And then of course the song ends
Mm-hmm.
um the saying, "Thanks to life for giving me laughter and sorrow, which are the ingredients of my songs, the material of my songs, and of
Wow.
your song, and of
Mm-hmm.
everybody's song." So she makes it universal too.
So in a way, that kind of answers a question I had in mind as well about how her music can help anyone really with their life's challenges. If you listen obviously to her music and the lyrics, she seems to incorporate almost everybody and everything from like it just feels like anyone can listen to it and feel like okay, someone gets me and it helps me with the next step in my life if it's good, if it's not so good, whatever else there is. So that's
Well,
how
I
it
would
feels
say that
like.
I agree, and I think that the word I would say her art is universal in that way. I mean that it can touch many people,
Mm-hmm.
and I think and I appreciate the honesty that I've heard in your podcast about how life is also a struggle. And so Violeta Parra, I want to say, she struggled. I think it's fair
Mm-hmm.
to say she struggled with, well, I mean, I can't keep this from your listeners. I think she struggled with mental health issues, and I'm sure she did because her life ended with suicide. So she did take her life.
Mm-hmm.
And so close towards the end of her life, she writes "Thanks to Life," which you could think of in a way as a testament. I mean, it's just
Mm-hmm.
absolutely this amazing song. And I want to say, and I think this helps us too. Uh, not her ending doesn't help us, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
but she in the same year she writes this song called "Maldigo del alto cielo." I curse the sky above.
Mm-hmm.
And literally, she curses everything that she gives thank for in the other song. But who here hasn't needed a song where you curse everything, right? I mean, it's that song too
Exactly.
could be ours, right? I curse the
Yes.
number seven. I mean, it's completely arbitrary, and like, who hasn't felt that? Like like
Mm-hmm.
I curse the color yellow. Why not, right? Green and blue too,
Yes.
right? So
Yeah.
literally, and because and she the tagline of that song, one song says "Thanks to life, gracias a la vida." The other song is called "Maldigo del alto cielo." I curse to the heavens above, and the tagline of that song is um, so great is my pain, my sorrow. So, she
Mm.
was both. And I think the diagnosis did not exist in her time. She committed suicide in 67, but I think I'm very sure, and other people, are also sure that she would have been diagnosed as bipolar probably in this day and
Hmm.
age because she did have those highs and lows. And many artists, let's face it,
Yeah,
many artists do have
yeah,
that.
they do. But it's
Yeah.
like you said, you, you can't always sing happy songs because this is not how we are. Our DNA is not made just to be happy. We have our ups and downs in life, and some have tougher ups and downs. I mean, listening to what she went through and her generation, and probably the generations after her went through, it wasn't always sunshine and roses, so to speak. So having someone like
Yeah.
Violeta just being there to kind of comfort them and let them give them a way to vent, but also then have faith that life will go on and it can be better. I think that's incredible that they have this one person who expresses how so many people feel, and I guess also helps them with their mental health. And that's what we don't seem to recognize so much. I mean, more and more, I believe it's happening, but
Yeah.
music is such a great way to help us in so many ways. And Violetta is obviously a very good example of that. The little that I do know through you,
Yeah.
from like just a personal level, from an individual to a country,
Yeah.
having someone there that helps them go through this massive, massive change to obviously globally because people recognize the struggle and the celebrations. I mean, I just thinking about that alone that one person did that. One person.
I
If you
think I'm
don't
going to
get
have
goosebumps, I am
I do.
sorry. you know?
I totally did it. I've never heard someone put it that way, and I really, really appreciate it. I actually brought this because I appreciate the theme of your podcast. So
Thank
I
you.
wanted to bring this is so Violeta Parra is being interviewed. I wanted to just quote one thing she said in an interview. This is 1965, and
Okay.
she's just come back from Europe.
Hmm.
And she's being interviewed in Chile because, oh my goodness, if you're in Chile and you go off to Europe and you conquer Europe, you're just such a star, right?
Oh,
And so she says, um, she talks about how music is a way of curing our problem, healing our problems. It's a way of expressing the aspirations and desires of our peoples. And then she goes, and this is the exact quote, because these interviews love to paraphrase her, but these are her words. I'm going to say in Spanish and then translate. Es como una vuelta del alma humana a sus cosas. It's as if it's a way for the human soul to return to all of its things, to all the things that matter to it.
oh, I love,
So,
I
I mean,
love
I
that.
hold on to that quote. I love that quote.
Oh, that's so beautiful and so true.
I know it
And
really
we're not
is.
even, I mean, I'm not a musician, I'm just a music lover who
Uh-huh.
appreciates music and people who are in some shape or form involved in it. But yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you for sharing. I love that. That's
I
really,
know. Well,
yeah.
when I saw your podcast, I thought, well, that's what she says. That's what Violeta Parra says. That you guys agree. I mean, I
Wonderful.
forget how you describe your podcast, but clearly you feel the same
Yeah.
way. So that's another resonance. And I
Mm.
did want to like go back to that question of resonance.
Hmm.
There's because I talked about sort of how she resonated through her songs and her artwork, because that's where I would always start, because
Hmm.
really that's the gift she left us, that's the legacy she left us.
Hmm.
But then what's so powerful is how people have sort of given re-meaning made given new meanings to it in sort of every chapter of Chilean history, but also beyond Chilean history. This song, and I'm not sure why. I'd love to investigate it. I made a rule for myself when I was writing the book that I wasn't going to look at anything after her death because I had to finish the book. but but for some reason, the Ukrainian Orange Revolution in
Hmm.
the early part of this century, they chose the song "Gracias a la Vida" as one of their symbols. So her song really does resonate all over the world to this day. But I'd like to give a really striking example of
Hmm.
the same song, Gracias a la Vida. So it's 1984. It's at the height of the military dictatorship in Chile. And so everything's outlawed. All political songs are outlawed. They've even outlawed certain instruments, the charango, because the charango, which is a small guitar, or the quena, which is a bamboo flute, because they're
Mhm.
associated with this protest music called Nueva Canción or New Song. So they're
Mhm.
associated with all of these wonderful musicians, including Violeta Parra. But Violeta Parra has written these songs like Gracias a la Vida, which doesn't have an ounce of politics in it. So you can't say this
Mhm.
song is illegal, right?
Yeah.
And so in 1984, on a certain day, I know it was in June, I can't remember the date, but
Mhm.
all of the human rights organizations that are organizing, all of the women's groups that are organizing, all of the sort of outside of the political parties and outside of the official, all of the official organizations, all of these grassroots people's organizations that are brave enough to try to organize under dictatorship decide that they're all going to go out at noon and sing Gracias a la Vida. And so the whole sort of movement, pro democracy movement, pro human rights movement stops the day at noon and goes outside and sings this song. And you can't, there, first of all, there's strength in numbers, and it's not a crime to sing a love song. It's just not. You can't. How can you put someone in jail for saying thanks to life for giving me my
Oh my
feet and
gosh.
my hearing and my eyes, right?
Yeah.
So that's just one
That's
older example, but her songs are being used in the student movement now, in women's
mhm.
movements, because they still resonate. And I'm sure if your listeners, Google Violeta Parra and go to YouTube, they'll see, hundreds and hundreds of versions of her song being performed all over the world by different people in different contexts.
Yeah. I have to say, I feel in a way, and I don't want this to come across as negative, but I feel in a way a little bit, I wouldn't say ignorant, but baffled is probably the better word, that I've never stumbled across her consciously until now.
Oh,
If she
oh,
is so in, if her music is so involved in all these big movements, then I'm wondering, why haven't I heard of her before?
well,
That's
I
really
do think,
baffling. Maybe I have, but not consciously, if that makes any
mhm.
sense, you know? So that's probably a question a lot of people who tune in today might go, well, why haven't I heard of her? Maybe I'm just one of the few that hasn't. That could
Well, what
be.
that's why I wrote the book. No, what I will tell
There
you,
you go.
thank God. Well, I will tell you two things. One thing, I think there is a language barrier, which is why I'm so so happy with the translations. So I
Hmm.
think she's also because again, she's also kind of the she's such a fighter too. Like nothing in her life said she could do all of this stuff, and she still did it, right?
Hmm.
She basically took the impossible and made it possible, and that's a
Wow.
large part of her biography.
Hmm.
So, and I want to say also, she wasn't well known when she died. She was, she was, and she had been to France, but she was kind of like the flavor of the month. The next month
Oh,
they'd have
okay.
the Indonesian puppeteers, right? It was kind of like your third world country flavor of the month.
Oh,
Um,
okay. I see.
so
Yeah.
so it wasn't Violeta Parra, it was Chilean folk artist. And in Chile, she was so problematic in some ways and that she kind of wasn't her genius was not really recognized until she died, which is often the case with artists. The
Yeah.
people who were close to her knew who she was and knew she was phenomenal. But
Hmm.
she wrote a lot of her songs in her 40s, and this was the 60s, and there really was a youth revolution. Like, I mean, if you
Hmm.
were the joke is if you were over 21, you were the so she's 49 and she's writing these stuff, or she's in her late 40s. She was the mother of these amazing musicians too. So they were the stars, and she was the mother of them. So there's
Ah, I
that. So
see.
so there's that, and I think
Hmm.
there's a language barrier, and I think that it is happening. I mean, I think that you can be part of the wave, or because I do
Mm.
think it's happening, and I will share with you because I'm so excited about it. But the New York Times has this feature that they do,
Yep.
which is called Overlooked No More, where they
Oh.
take someone who did not get an obituary when they died
Hmm.
and they write an obituary for them, sort of trying to
Oh.
make up for the fact that most of the obituaries that they ever wrote up until recently were about famous white men, right?
That's
And so
yeah.
there's tons of people in our history and all over the world that have done amazing things that did, when they died, did not make the New York Times. And so
Mm,
I have to say I'm extremely excited, but I was contacted by a reporter from the New York Times because they're going to do that. And I wrote the book. So they wanted to ask me some questions about her life. But so the New York Times is going to actually sort of recognize that this woman should have been recognized a long time ago. So
wonderful.
Birgit, you're not alone. It's kind of I hope it's
Mm,
something that's happening right now. I hope that you're
yeah.
kind of at the head of the wave because you're interviewing me on you're interviewing me on your
Yay!
podcast.
Yeah,
So you're now
amazing.
we're gonna have more Violetta maniacs in the world.
Oh dear. Well, I'm actually curious to read the book because her life sounds incredible in many emotionals and in many positive and sadly negative ways. So yeah, I'll put that book on my wish list.
Oh, wonderful. Well, I hope it comes out January 15th, 2025. So it's
Right,
been a
yeah.
long time in the coming, but it's coming.
Yes. So I think by the
Yeah.
time this one comes out, the book will be available for purchase. So
Oh, wonderful. Yeah.
people can
Well,
buy it.
yeah.
Now, we've had a wonderful chat about Violetta, and I think we could probably chat for another hour or two about her life because it sounds like she's one incredible woman who's done amazing things for her time. But I think we got to slowly come to an end.
Oh,
And I'm just wondering if there's one thing about her and her life that you feel we should know because it's important for right now for us as a whole or individuals. What would you like us to know or take away from her life that she lived that we should remember and maybe take with us as inspiration or guidance or whatever it is?
that's a fantastic question too. And I think there's so many, but I would say, um, I think for right now, um, because of uh, the way the world is sort of shaping up, I would say she had a very profound and I would say almost instinctive sense of social justice.
Mm-hmm.
She couldn't stand how some people, which Chile literally went most of her life in Chile. There were rich people. There were very few of them. There were millions of poor people, and there was a small middle class.
Mm-hmm.
And that system is so poor people can their children can die of malnutrition, they can die of worms, they can die of anything. They
Mm-hmm.
can die of bad water, of contaminated water. They can and so again, and I said children, like so sort of the injustice of people having such hard lives
Mm-hmm.
was something that filled her with outrage.
Mm-hmm.
And in this day and age where there's sort of these hyper billionaires on the planet that I don't think we've ever even like conceived of, and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people who are truly struggling all over
Mm-hmm.
the planet. I think that sense of you know that we need to play a part in bearing witness to this world and denouncing injustice. I would say that's important. And
Mm-hmm.
her way of playing a part was by writing these amazing songs of witness
Mm-hmm.
and denunciation. And I think I have no none like I don't have a prescription for how people should make this world a better place. I think each of us does it in our own way. I think
Yes.
that kindness is is a tool. I mean, I think I don't I'm not saying I have an answer to how it should
Mm-hmm.
be done, but I think that centering other people as part of
Mm-hmm.
your life and what you want and seeing them and bearing witness. And again, I don't mean that sometimes we have to gather with just our family, or maybe we need to go and be with nature and
Mm-hmm.
take respite from the world, but I think we should always come back to it. I would say that's what she said. I mean, she did all of those things, and she never gave up.
Mm-hmm.
She was a fighter.
Yeah.
I think we all may need to fight right now a little bit
Yeah.
in our own way, totally in our own way, but
Yes.
we might be called on.
Yeah. And I get this feeling that maybe another thing is find solace and strength in art,
Absolutely,
because
absolutely.
that's
And
what she seemed
creativity.
to have done. That's my impression I
Yes,
just get of her. So,
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, in
mm,
fact, it all blends together because her art
hmm,
was that. Her art
yeah,
literally was her bearing witness.
mm,
Um,
yeah,
and witness to also to the love and to man. I mean,
yeah,
the most gentle and most beautiful images as well. I mean,
mm,
really all to the vastness of our universe, to all of
yeah,
the things all the things that we can give thanks for.
yeah. Well, thanks to
Yeah,
life.
exactly, exactly. Good way to end
Good ways.
it.
Well,
Oh,
yes, Erica, I feel like time's just really flown past, and there's probably so much we could still cover about Violetta's life. And I guess the only thing I can say is anyone that's really fascinated or interested, get the book.
absolutely. Oh,
um,
I have a
yeah,
web page too, and they can write me because I love these
yes,
conversations. So, if you have a question or anything like that, believe me, I will answer you. It's like if
yes.
you're curious, I applaud you and I would be very happy. So, should I tell you my website? Would that be
I'll put it
helpful?
all in the episode
Okay, very
description.
good.
So
Excellent.
anyone
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
interested, get in touch with you to ask
Yes,
questions or for anything else. It
I would
will be
love that.
there. So no problem there. It will all be visible for anyone that's interested. And yeah, all I can say is, Ericka, thank you so much for coming on and sharing about Violetta. It's been a pleasure. I enjoyed it very much.
Well, I'm so grateful you're the first official podcast I've done, and I truly, truly enjoyed it. I'm really glad it was you, Birgit. I feel like
Oh,
this was a wonderful conversation, and the way you described what she did, sort of from the local. I'm going to carry that with me as well.
oh.
It was a really refreshing way to think about her. So I appreciate. I love this that it was such a dialogue. I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful. Yeah, me too. I loved hearing all about her and I loved hearing the passion coming through you as well that you have for her. And it's really wonderful to see that, that's there and we can feel that and we can impact and we can share that. That's why I love these conversations too. So thank you to you.
Thank you. All right. Well, take good
All
care then.
right. B-siders, as I said, if you're interested to find out more about Violetta's life, Eric is there for you. She's there. Her door's open. So please get in touch. There's also YouTube. Check her out on there. And that's all I've got to say for today. Apart from thanks for tuning in, as always. I appreciate you for being here. And I shall be with you again in the next episode. Until then, you all take very good care of yourself. I'm sending you much music and love. Until then, bye bye. Bye.
Bye.